So all of these are going to be free. I'm going to give you some dimensions, and we're just going to kind of wing it on the pouches. So that's going to be fun, right? And then this little Madison wallet, you can go online and get it for free. Okay. So we are going to start out by cutting. Okay. I don't usually cut on videos, but we're going to start cutting. And honestly, I'm just going to come up with some measurements, and we're just going to go with it and do it. And I've got a bunch of scraps here. I got a cutting mat. So we're going to switch over to that. You might see a little blip in the video. It'll kind of redirect you, and then you should see the cutting mat. All right, so we're going to give it a try, see if we can get this switched over. I'm trying to do end. All right, hold on just a second. We'll see if we don't lose you. Okay, so we should be here at the cutting mat now. And we have got a bunch of scraps here.
Reintroduce just in case people weren't in this one.
Okay, so just in case you weren't in the original one where you had that little blip there, we have got some sewing pouches we're doing. So hopefully everybody can still hear me and see me. I see Christine Whitaker's here. We have Debbie Roth, Lisa Sweet, Olivia Boggs. So yeah, great. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. So again, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a close-up. If you've got, like I said, a lovely Brahmin person in your family that loves Brahmin, this would be a really great set to give to them. Now, this faux is really thick, and so when I did this little Brahmin-inspired pouch, I did not round the corners. I didn't turn it. You can see my raw edges here. Okay. Before I gave this as a gift, I'd probably kind of put a little base coat and edge paint on that. Same thing with the little Madison wallet. I would probably go ahead and base coat and edge paint that as well. So anyway, that would be a Brahmin-inspired set, and I'm just kind of going over this one more time, just in case somebody's just joining us. If you have a Dior fan in your family or a friend, you know, this is a little, we're going to do one of these where we have a rounded bottom like this with a zipper. We're going to do a little Madison wallet, and you can go online and download this. And then we're going to do just a little box bottom zipper pouch. Okay, super easy to do. Now, hopefully you've got some scraps. That's about all you're going to need. And hopefully you've got some lining with some woven interfacing already attached. That's what I have here. Okay, so I have just some red, what I'm doing here. Okay, can everybody see my cutting board? I want to make sure everybody can see my cutting board. Before I go any further. You should be able to see some scraps of lining here. I have some scraps of some adhesive lining. And then I have...
You have to click.
Oh, okay. Because that's where the green...
So oh, I see. Okay. Only pay attention to this.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry, we're learning the
learning the switcher. Okay.
Okay.
Taylor's here with me, and I thought you were seeing one thing, and now you're seeing something else. All right, I think we're good. Can everybody see my cutting board? All right, now I see your comments. Sewing machine. Okay. We do have a little bit of a delay, too, so if you ask a question, please feel free to do so, and it might take me a few minutes to see it and respond back to you. Okay, everybody's saying yes.
But they also said can't hear you.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Let me make sure that's okay before we get started. So audio okay. Make sure you say yes to audio. If I see a lot of yeses, is that cutting board or audio? Yes, we can hear you. Awesome. Okay. Cheryl says yes. Robin, yes. Okay, great. We have a lot of people. Yay. Okay, sounds good. All right, so again, got a lot of scraps here of lining. I also have a lot of, there's some more lining. I also have a lot of scraps of just stuff, okay? I'm sure you have some of this in your room as well. I'm gonna probably, I think I'm gonna kind of focus today on this kind of Burberry-inspired faux. I think that's gonna make a cool pouch. I think these will be really neat because I have this red adhesive, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. So the first thing is decide on your materials, okay, what you want to do. And we're going to start out making the Madison, okay? So I see I just received a Hefty bag, a faux leather handle and strap bag. It's great. Yes, I'm glad you enjoy that. You should have, okay, with all the faux stuff we have going on, faux grab bags and scrap bags, you should have hopefully some things in your stash ready to go. Okay, I have a couple of pieces here for the Madison. So let's take all this aside and let's take a look at what we need. So again, this is a free pattern. It's called the Madison wallet. Basically, you've got one page of pattern pieces, and this is what they look like. Now this is this piece that I just printed and cut out twice. Okay, so hopefully you've got these pieces cut out and ready to go if you want to sew along with me. What we're going to do is start out there. I'm going to use my red adhesive lining, and I'm going to cut out one on the dotted line, which basically is this piece here. I have to cut out one lining piece, this piece facing up, and I have to cut out two lining pieces with this piece facing up. Okay, so I'm going to just set my main piece aside for a second. We're going to go ahead and cut these pieces out. So you can either cut it for measurement or using the pattern piece. This is 375 by 65. And my cutter is right here. Okay, just want to make sure nobody has any questions. And I hope everybody is having a good holiday season. I am excited just to be sewing. I am, you know, it's hard sometimes for me to sew with everything we have going on around here. And so I am always happy when I can sit and sew. And that means today's a good day. Okay, so I'm going to cut a couple of these. Oops. I have to say this little Madison wallet really has, it's done pretty well. We really like it, and it's just a cute little gift, especially, you know, for those teenagers and younger people that we're never sure what to get for them. All right, there's one. So the Madison is a wallet that was named after the person that asked me to make one. So as you know, we have a distributor, Brewer. We partner with Brewer, and they asked me to make a small, easy pattern of something. And so this is what we came up with. Okay, so I have my two lining pieces in this configuration. I have one lining piece in this configuration. And then of course I have my main body lining piece here as well. So I'm going to set all of this aside for just a second and cut out my main pieces. So let's see if I have enough of this. I think I do. So Christine says, I wasn't ready to sew along, but plan to watch and sew with the replay. Yep, that's great. And that way you can kind of see what we're doing and make changes later on as you go. So Brewer is my distributor. So basically they're the company that helps me get all these products into local stores, your local sewing shops. So if you have a local sewing shop that you love, somebody that you tend to go to over and over, ask them to carry Simply Classic products and they can get them. It is really a fantastic deal. We love working with them. They're a great company. Been around for 100 years. And they actually have been able to get us over to Europe as well. So Simply Classic products are in, I believe it's Denmark, Sweden, Holland, or Denmark, Holland, a couple of places like that. Of course, we're in Canada. And trying to get in Australia, that's been a little more difficult, but we're working on it. Okay, so we need 2 of our accent piece with this. So accent, I'm going to use black because I think black would be a great, and I'm on this black suede right now. Love using it, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. What you want to make sure of is when you cut these pieces out, make sure the writing's facing up. Don't put them upside down, because if you do, it will not work right. So let me go ahead and cut a couple of these. So what kind of things do you have on your sewing table? I'd like to know. What are you guys working on? You doing Christmas gifts or sewing for yourself? Or maybe you don't have a lot of time to sew right now? That could be too. I fully understand that. I know a lot of people I've seen have done some local markets and some kind of different things like that and been selling some bags. I think that's great. Okay, so I have my 2 accent pieces. Okay, cut like this. And so now I need 1 main piece cut this way. So I'm going to go back to my fabric here. And I should be able to get it right about there. Okay, and that's all we need to cut for the Madison. Super easy. So Liz says she's catching up on stuff that's already cut out. Debbie's working on craft fair stuff, catching up on projects. Ooh, Diane, you're in organization mode, organizing your hardware so you know what you need to get. Yes, Cheryl's working a Farfalla. I know about that one. Let's see, I just got the cast off my foot. Oh my gosh, Sandra, whew, yeah. Let's see who else we have. Grammy Jan says, working on all of my Simply Classic bags, even making some for pins and, oh yes, how about that? So are you making some samples for pins and needles? Is that what they had asked you to do that for them? So for those of you who don't know, I'll be up at Pins and Needles in Ohio. It's in the Cleveland area, teaching a couple classes in February. And so I know some of you are going to be there. And so I'm excited to see you. Yeah, okay, so they're having you do some samples. That's great. Love that. You need, if you're not, I'm sure you're not taking the class because you probably know how to do all the bags, but I still would love for you to stop by so I can meet you. That'd be fantastic. Okay. So let's start. Let's go ahead and sew this one, and then we'll move on to a different one. So I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to switch you over. Well, actually, I'm going to move the camera here so you can see. Oop, here we go. And we're going to start here. Jan has a lot of your kits. So is pins and needles, is Jan, I don't remember Jan, I thought her name was Brianna. Working on a cozy carry by Sophisticated Crafts. Oh, Jan, okay, Graham Jan says, I will be there, yay. Okay, so the way this works, let me put these two main pieces aside first. Okay, so we have two accent pieces in this direction. We have two lining pieces in that direction. And then we have one main piece and one lining piece in this direction. So we're going to start by, I'm going to take a little bit of double-sided tape and use that, although you don't have to do that. Jan is Fiona, Brianna is her daughter. Oh, okay. I did not realize that. I've met Brianna, but I've not met Jan yet. At least I don't think I have. Yeah, I'm not sure that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and put some double-sided tape just at the angled edge, okay, of each one of my faux pieces. So go here, here, and here. And this is a raw edge wallet. Brianna is the best. She and Taylor really hit it off. We met them at Bernina University last year, and those two together, my Taylor and Brianna, were a trip. Okay, I'm going to remove the backing off the double-sided tape here, and then match it up with the corresponding piece. So they look opposite, right? But when you fold it over, the wrong sides are going to be together. So in order to get this sewn on, we want to take and overlap the top seam like this. Okay, so the wrong side of the faux is going to go against the right side of the lining. And it looks a little strange, but that double-sided tape will hold that in place for you. And then we're going to go ahead and stitch this. So I'm going to, and I hope I don't run out of bobbin, because you know what, I forgot to make some bobbins. So let's see. I'm going to move you over and see if this works okay. You do want to back stitch. And I am sitting here at my industrial, but this is 100% doable with a domestic machine. I could have easily been sitting at my Burnett for this, because these are super easy. And this faux works great on Burnett's. Okay, so now I'm going to peel the backing off of this here. And then once we peel it off, we're going to just take this adhesive lining and fold it down. Okay? And then that piece is completed. Now, don't worry if your lining sticks out a little bit, because we're going to trim that. You could trim it now if you want to, but we're going to trim it again. Okay? So there's one piece. Cut my little threads. And then we're going to repeat that process with these. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing off the tape. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put the wrong side of the faux against the right side of the adhesive lining. Okay. I'm going to do both of these, and then we'll stitch. Okay, so bell ringer, you plan on attending the pins and needles event. Wow, that's great. So we have what, at least three people on right now that are going to be there. So we're going to be doing a Fairhaven, which I'm kind of excited they chose that bag. Not many times is that bag chosen for events. And so I was kind of, usually everybody wants the Julie, so I was kind of excited about that. Okay, I'll do one more. So Christine's asking me, Chris, does that lining crinkle when applying it? No, it really doesn't. And actually, sometimes when you get it, it has some crinkles in it. But once you peel the backing off and you apply it, it really works well. And you know, a couple of people have asked me about lining a whole bag with it. I don't think I would do that. I think I'd stick to, like, a Sorella's okay, but otherwise I think I would stick to wallets, you know, just smaller bags. Okay, so we're just going to fold this over. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, so just like that, we have all of our little pieces done. So essentially what's going to happen is they're going to, you know, be like this on the wallet. Okay, so let's take our main pieces. So actually, see how this actually has some crinkles in it? You can see how that looks. When you remove this and you center it on this piece, you're going to see those crinkles go away. I see it sticking together on itself. You know, if you're doing a larger piece, it can be a little tough, but when you're doing smaller pieces like this, it really is not that bad. So I'm just going to kind of center that in the middle and see how those wrinkles came right out. It's really a great little product. We like it. So I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape along the top edges, top meaning the short edges. You're getting encouragement, Christine. People are telling you you can do it. And just like anything else, it does take practice. Once in a while, it'll stick to itself on me, and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to start over. But for the most part, it does pretty well. So all I'm going to do is fold this top edge over, okay, and then we're going to stitch it. So I'm just going to remove the backing from the double-sided tape. Well, maybe. There we go. And then fold this over. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch this in place. Okay, so this is what we have. So I'm going to fold this in half and cut my thread. I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm just going to put tiny little snips in this so that I know where the center is. Now, if you're using a directional fabric like the Dior fabric, you see I made sure that the D's or P's or whatever these were in the right direction on the back. So basically I took this one piece, folded it in half, which meant half of it was upside down. So I just made sure that I put my card slot pieces on the upside down side. Okay, so if you look in there, you can see those are upside down in there. But you can't really tell, especially once you have a card in there. You know, then you really can't tell. Okay. So if you have directional fabric, just kind of keep that in mind. This really is not, obviously. So we're going to take first one of our accent pieces, because we want to put an accent piece. We're going to alternate accent piece against the main part, and then we're going to do vice versa, vice versa. And what you want to do is just make sure that the upper edge here is right along the upper edge. You can put a little bit of double-sided tape on the bottom, and what we're going to do is just stitch on the bottom of this piece. Hello, Valerie. So I know a couple of you have asked about quarterly subscription boxes. Those are being mailed Monday. So if you are a yearly subscriber, yours will be mailed on Monday. If you are a monthly payment subscriber, then yours will be mailed basically as soon as your order comes through and the credit card hits, and we'll get it out to you. So the nice thing about this fabric is I've got lines, right? I can make sure that they're nice and straight. So I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch right down here at the bottom. Okay, so now this is what we have. So I'm going to take the other main piece and I'm going to put it on top of this piece. Now you want the last piece to be even with your center marks. So this is going to be about 1/2 inch down on the side. You can see here we have about 1 inch left over from the end of that to the center mark. So we're going to come down 1/2 inch, put the second one, and then another 1/2 inch and put the last one. So you can measure if you would like. Go ahead and put some double-sided tape. Someone's asking me if I'm using Wax double-sided tape. 99% of the time, yes, I do. I think this is a tape that I got from Amazon, and it's a less sticky tape. It is from a sign company, and it does okay. It's really better when I use it on my Burnett, my domestic machine. This machine, my Conso, does not really care about double-sided tape. I mean, if I really have a lot of layers, you know, it might kind of choke a little, but for the most part, it does really well. But if you're going to get double-sided tape, then I do recommend Wax. They do have good stuff. They have both the like Hyper Stick and the kind of less sticky kind. This is just something I kind of had in my stash and had a while ago. I'm going to draw a line here just so that I know where to put this. And go ahead and line that up. Make sure it's nice and straight. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch 1/8 of an inch. Okay. And then we have our last piece here. So is anybody sewing along or is everybody watching? If you're sewing along, I'm trying to take a little time so that you can keep up. Okay, so France says, thanks again, I have a Burnett 08. It's a great machine. I really like my Burnett. And I'm going to say that I have a new industrial machine coming, and I'll have a kind of an unboxing and a whole thing for it here shortly, but I'm pretty excited about it. I don't want to say what it is yet. I'll wait until I get it. It'll be a surprise, but it's something that, yeah, I'm kind of excited about. It's going to take up a lot less room than this here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch at the bottom. So between the new industrial that I'm getting and the Burnett, I should really be, you know, compact enough, because when we film it's hard, you know, it's hard a lot of times you have these big machines, and I ran out of bobbin, to get everything situated, and you know, we have kind of small spaces to work with, so the smaller the machine, the better it's going to be. So again, I'm kind of excited about getting my new one. Still cutting, okay. So I think, Christine, you're talking about some of the, I'm going to have to wind a bobbin, some of the RFID you're asking about, lining or RFID and what you can use for that. And I have heard that same thing. If you put aluminum foil in your, like behind your lining, it will do the same thing. Here, let me, okay. So if you put aluminum foil behind your lining, then it will essentially be like a RFID protection. Okay. So I've never tried it, but I heard it works. I've heard it works. Still cutting, okay. Watching and taking notes, good. A lot of times it's easier to do it after the fact, after you've watched one time, and then you can kind of go back and sew afterwards. Does the foil make it crinkly? That's a good question. Does anybody know if it makes your wallet like loud, I guess would be the right word? You know, if I had some aluminum foil over here, I could try it. I didn't think about that. I don't think I have any over here though. It's all at the house. Sorry about having to wind a bobbin. Should have thought of that before. This is a great time to oil your machine, by the way. If you've got an industrial machine, a lot of times I'll put a couple drops of oil in before I actually start winding my bobbin, and then it gets everything nice and lubricated. So Dale says, looking forward to seeing the new industrial machine. You've budgeted for one. I have to say this one is a couple thousand at the most. It's really not that expensive of a machine, and it's kind of a portable machine. But it's probably not the one you're thinking of. Oh shoot. I'll tell you what, my bobbin kind of went haywire on me. I wasn't paying attention, but we're gonna cut this and go with it. Have you done any videos on how you take care of your machine? So I have not on this console, but I can direct you to a couple of videos that are really good. They are basically how to, because I don't have anybody around here to service my industrial machines. We live in Augusta, Georgia. There is no place for me to take them. And so I've learned just how to do it by myself. And these videos are really good. If you can either go on YouTube and look for Conso, it's a Conso, but it kind of applies to all industrial machines, like Conso maintenance. There's like a 2-part video, and it's by MRC or MTC. It's basically a guy that works on industrial machines, but he takes you step by step through like how to adjust for the timing, how to adjust for the needle position, how to adjust the dog feed, how to adjust your presser foot height. I mean, he goes through everything, and it's really, really good. So Made by Misty says, I've heard that the hackers have already surpassed the RFID stuff and it doesn't really work anymore. Don't know if that's true or not, but if the foil works to keep out the aliens, why not give it a try? Yes, I agree. I'll tell you, if the people who do all that hacking stuff, if they would put their powers and use them for good instead of evil, their powers and their knowledge, boy, it would really, can you imagine where we could be technology-wise? I mean, we're already pretty far, but it would be amazing. All right. All right, we're back in business. There's part 1 and a part 2 of the maintenance. Cheryl says, I bought a Sailrite fabricator to add to my industrial collection. I love that machine. That is great. I've heard a lot of good things about the Sailrite. A lot of good things. I have a friend here, Lisa, has one. And Lisa, I think you're on right now. She bought her Sailrite and then she ended up getting a cylinder arm. Okay, so this is what we have. We have all of these little things sewn on. Okay. And then all we're going to do is fold this in half. Put a couple wonder clips. And we're going to sew. Now, the tip I can give you on this is when we go to sew this side, it's going to be easy because we're going to start at the bottom and sew up. When we go to sew this side, we're going to want to start at the top and come down, but don't do that. It's going to be a little awkward, but put the wallet in this way so you're starting from the bottom and going up. We're going to stitch this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, not 1/8, because once we stitch, we're going to go ahead and trim off 1/8 of an inch, and that way we have nice even edges. If you do want to edge paint, you can. Or if you don't want to, you can just leave it raw. I mean, there's no reason to edge paint other than to make it look, you know, pretty, even though it already looks pretty. So I'm going to stitch at a 1/4 of an inch. Cut my threads. And well, here, I want to show this to you. If you stitch off of your piece, you're going to get this little bit of thread going over the top like that. And I like that. I think that that kind of holds it together, and I usually try to do that. I usually try to stitch off of the piece so that I get that little bit of thread. And that's preference. You know, I don't know that it holds it together any better or less, but it's just a lot of times on designer bags you see that. You see they probably take a hand stitch when they do it, but they actually go over the top of the bag. All right, we're going to stitch the other side. So Lisa says, love my Sailrite fabricator and now getting used to my console cylinder arm. Christine says, you have the Sailrite, but you struggle. You think it's me. You know, the thing about industrial machines, I have to say, like when I first got this console machine, I like to say we had a love-hate relationship. And it was probably more hate than love. Now, when I bought this machine, it was over 20 years ago. So it had a clutch motor instead of a servo motor. And I don't know if you've ever sewn with a clutch motor before, but if you have not, I can promise you, you are not missing anything. It was awful. There was no control in the speed of the stitches. It was loud. You would turn it on, it would immediately go, hum, the whole house would shake. I mean, it was not a good thing. And once I switched to the servo motor, it literally changed how this machine sewed. And then I turned into a loving relationship with it. But for a while, it was a little tough. So there's a learning curve when it comes to industrial machines. They do sew differently, and it takes just kind of sitting in front of it and doing a lot of practice. All right, so now that this is done, I am going to go ahead and just cut these edges to 1/8 of an inch. So go ahead and I'm going to stand up for this. Hold on a minute. I got to stand up when I cut. And turn this around, cut this side. Get my glasses because I can't see because it's black. There we go. All right. And there we have a little Madison wallet. So, I mean, you could literally pump out how many of these in an hour? I mean, it would be, you could do a lot of these. You could cut all of them, and then you go back and you could stitch them all. And then your cards fit in here perfectly. So a little Burberry-inspired wallet. Isn't that cute? Easy enough. You know, this fabric, I have to say, I am not a plaid person. Never been a plaid person, never been a stripe person, just don't like it. But I really love this. I really love it. I have to say, I think I'm being converted. I would never wear it on my body, but I love it in a bag. It's so pretty. Fabulous and easy, yes. So now at this point, again, if you wanted to go ahead and do a little edge painting, you certainly could do that. You know, I would go through and just kind of cut back and burn these little edges, these little threads that are sticking up everywhere. Kind of part of it. But what a great gift. I just love this thing. Okay. Ready to move on to another one? So I'm going to stick with the Burberry-inspired theme, and let's move on to a little box pouch wallet. Now, the greatest thing about these is that you can make them any size you want. Okay. This one I think is a little big. I mean, it depends what you're going to put in it. But this one measures about 5.5 wide, and it is about 4 inches tall and about 2 inches deep. And to me, that's a little bit big, but it depends. But here's what I'm really limited by is the width of my scrap. I don't have a ton of, let's look and see what I've got. I'm going to move you over, and we're going to go back to the cutting table here, and let's see what we can manage. I'm going to keep this because I'm going to use this for my zipper tabs, because we're going to need some zipper tabs. I think I've got this tan, and I've got white. And this is what I have left of this, if I want to continue with the same theme. So let's make one this size. So this is 7 by 5.5. Okay, looking on my table, 7 by 5.5. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to kind of try to line up my stripes so that when I cut this, it will be even. You know, try to get my patterns to match both on the sides and at the top and bottom. So I'm going to cut along this black line. And then I'm going to cut, looks like I need to cut this little piece of black right here off, just to kind of get them evened up. You can make, again, you can make these pouches any size, shape you want. We're going today with 7, let me just double check. Okay, so it ends up being more like 6 3/4 by 5.75. Okay, so let's do that. 6 3/4 by 5.75. And I'm going to make sure that my cuts are straight. And I think on this one, I'm not going to add any accent color. I think I'm just going to stick with this fabric on its own. All right. So Lisa says she's making a few of these for teacher gifts, and that would be a great idea. She's talking about the Madison wallet. That would be really good, especially with a little Amazon gift card or something, so they can get stuff for their classroom. Okay, now let's talk about zipper, because you can do a couple different things. I have got some number 3 zipper in this gunmetal and white. And then I also have some black and gunmetal. Let me see what kind of zipper pulls I have. Let's see. So all of those little scraps of zipper that you have, keep them, because sometimes the little 5-inch or 4-inch pieces work really well on this. I do have some number 3 and number 5 in the gunmetal. So which do you think? I'm going to let you guys choose. I don't know which one I want. Black. I see Made by Misty says black. Black zip tape would go great. Black. Oh, white. Ooh. Okay, so we got 2 blacks and a white. Black, 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 black. Black number 3. All right. I don't think I have any black number 3 right here. I think everything I have is number 5 in the black. So I have to abandon you for a while to go hunt down my number 3. So I'm going to stick with number 5. All right, black's the winner. So here's what you want to do. Whatever size your pouch is, wherever you're going to put your zipper, you want to cut your zipper tape. We're going to end up cutting it 1 inch shorter. But I'm not going to do that until after I put my zipper pull on and my zipper end. So I'm going to just kind of do a rough cut here, cut it slightly larger at this point. Get my zipper cutting stitches or scissors. Okay, so I'm just going to go a little bit bigger at this point. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put my zipper pull on. See if I can do this without my zipper jig. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to take a little piece of scrap. So I had that little piece here. And on the end where I installed the zipper pull, I'm just going to go ahead and put a piece of scrap right sides together with the zipper tape, like this. And I'm going to stitch using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so let me move you over. We'll do a little stitching. So if you work like me, you got everything everywhere. And then you can't find it. All right, now one thing I like, and this is personal preference, I like to stitch with the zipper tape facing down. Whoops, that's the end of that wonder clip. I feel like for whatever reason, it stitches over the zipper better. Do you guys find that too? Because I do. And I'm not gonna worry about if it's even as far as the width right now. I'm just really worried about lining up this edge here. So everybody's saying yes. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a lot easier to do that. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and just take this piece of scrap, make sure the seam allowance is going towards the piece of scrap. Okay, so my zipper tape is laying flat. And I'm going to wrap this all the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to top stitch that right in place. Okay, so from here, you can just tidy this up. So I'm just going to cut off this excess here, save that for another bag, and then just cut off my little ends. Okay, now this is where we want to measure, well, this is where we want to measure, and so we know that the width of our little pouch is going to be about 6 3/4. So we want this to be about 5 3/4. So I'm going to make a mark on the zipper tape at 5 3/4, and that's where we're going to pinch our edges. Okay. So once we do that, of course, this will be centered on there. And this is just going to give us space so we can turn the bag, and we're not going to get those funky corners that punch in at the sides. You know how a lot of times when you do bags, it tends to do that. It tends to kind of fold in. Okay, I just lost the comment, so give me 1 second. Let me try to get them back. Hold on just a minute. This is not my computer, so let me see if I can find out how to get in it. All right, so what we're going to do is just pinch right on this line, okay, this little mark that I made, and then you're going to fold that up to the teeth. And I'm going to put a pin. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So pinch it right at that mark and fold it up to the zipper teeth. So I'm just folding a little right angle with this. And the main thing I want to make sure of is that these teeth are even, so that when I zip this zipper up, right across here, that's nice and even. Okay, let me trying to get you back here on the comments. Okay, I see you again. Okay, so I see that Sylvia has joined us, and K-Walk has joined us. Okay, great. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just stitch these down. I've seen people use a lighter and just kind of burn them down. I feel like for me it doesn't stay as well. I think it's because I'm afraid of burning my fingers when I do it. So I just stitch them in place. So whenever I do this, I always make sure the zipper tape is going towards the back of the machine, not the front. Don't do it this way. You want to approach it this way. And I'm going to unzip the zipper, pull some, and then just go ahead and stitch these down. I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. Okay, we'll clean up the threads and then our zipper will be done. Again, super easy. I'm not going to worry about cutting off the arms yet. We'll do that once we attach it to the pouch. Now the other thing we need is some lining, and I didn't think about that. So let's go ahead and cut a couple pieces of lining the same size as the bag itself is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to move you back over to the cutting table and go ahead, and I could probably get 2 out of 1 maybe. Let's see. I have a little bit of this leftover linen from so long ago. Okay, that doesn't quite work. So what I've done, I always fuse my classic fuse woven interfacing to the back before I cut. And that way when I cut, I have nice clean cuts and it doesn't fray. Once I do that, here, of course, I'm going to stack these, and I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of clean cuts first. So what I mean is just get some straight cuts. Let me go ahead and move this out of the way. So cut there. I'll go ahead and cut here. And then I will measure accordingly. So it was 5.25 by 6.75. I am just going to cut them the same size at this point, and then when I go to sew the lining, I'll just take a little bit larger seam allowance. Okay, so that should be about right. I'll go ahead and cut. And of course, we're not going to have any pockets or anything in this. We're just going to have an open pouch. Now, the other thing we need to do on all of these pieces is we want to make sure that, or we need to cut little squares, little rectangles or squares in the edges here. So depending on how deep you want your pouch is going to depend on how deep you cut your little squares. So this here, I told you this was, let me stick my hand in there because I didn't think I had cut it quite that big. So this is about 2 inches roughly, and I think that's a little deep. So what I'm going to do is do it a little bit shallower, and I'm going to cut it. Let's cut, make sure these are going in the right direction. I got one a little bit bigger than the other. I guess I never did cut this way. Let me go ahead and cut this. You see, when I told you this is really casual and we were winging it, what I meant. I mean, we're really winging it. No pattern at all, just using up the scraps. Okay, so now they are the same size. Everything's the same size. Okay, so I'm going to stack all these, and then I'm going to cut, let's do 1 inch, okay? 1 inch little squares at the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw that in on this side, draw it in over here. And then make sure everything's stacked up nice and cut. Okay, so what I have now are 4 pieces, okay, 2 lining, 2 main. They are 6.75 inches wide by 5.25 inches deep. Now, why they are that is just because that's what my scraps were, okay, that's the most I could get out of that. You can make yours any size, but, you know, you typically, this doesn't have to be this way, but usually pouches are wider than they are tall. Again, that's not a rule. That's just something that you see a lot of times. You can make yours any size or shape you want. But you know, you just want to kind of stay in proportion. you see sometimes pencil cases that are really long and not very tall at all. You could certainly do that as well. I mean, however you want to do this. But when you get done cutting everything, you basically want 2 main pieces, you want 2 lining pieces, all the same size, whatever that size is. Okay, makes sense? So I'm going to move you back over to the machine. And then we are going to start. So the first thing I'm going to do is put double-sided tape along the top edge of each one of these pieces. All right, 1, 2. 3, 4. Christina says this is fun, and Rhonda, love all the vinyls you're using. Yeah, we've got so many designer-inspired faux. They are really amazing. If you want to do Prada, we have the triangles, you know, Prada inspired. You can do the triangles. If you want to do Brahmin-inspired, you can do our iridescent croc. You're going to need an industrial machine for that though. If you want to do our Dior, of course you can do that pattern. You could do, what else do we have? I know we have some others. Obviously we have this Burberry inspired, and so there's so many different things you can do. And you know, so many people, they don't even really know. I mean, they see it, they recognize the pattern more than anything. Okay, so I went ahead and marked the center of my 2 main pieces, and I'm going to mark the center of my zipper. Now I'm only marking up to the point of the angle. Okay, that is, I mean, theoretically I could cut these off right now. I just like to wait until after. So I'm going to go ahead and just put teeny tiny little clips in my zipper. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough so you know where the center is. And if you do it at an angle, you shouldn't have any problem with it unraveling. Okay, so, you know, if I had a front, I would want to make sure that the zipper pull is going to the left for me on the front. Doesn't matter with this, this is the same, the front and the back. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. So this is the backing off the tape. And then I'm going to center the marks together, put the 2 center marks together. Don't pull your zipper tape. Okay, just lay it down. And then peel the backing off of one of the linings. You could do it the center, but at this point they're the same size, so you can just go ahead and match them up. Right, because we cut all of these the same size. Okay. Now I'm going to move my zipper pull because I want to stitch from the wrong side of my zipper tape, right? So I'm going to stitch with this side up. So I moved my zipper pull way down, and I'm going to stitch using 1/4 of an inch. Usually when you put zippers in, you want to use that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, move my pull. Okay, so now that this is sewn on, I'm going to go ahead and cut off this little arm. And then I'm going to just burn that. Okay, whenever I top stitch this, I'm going to top stitch with this open. I feel like if I do that, it does better with making these edges not, you know, fold in or bump out, or it just gives me a little extra space. It gives me a little extra room. It gives me less bulk. It just overall helps. So when I top stitch, I'm going to open this up and top stitch on the main part of the bag. Now, if you wanted to take this to the iron to fold this down, you certainly could do that. I'm just going to do a little finger press here. It'll be fine. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Go ahead and peel the backing off the tape. Match up the center of this piece with the center of the zipper. Don't pull your zipper, just lay it down, and then put the lining on. Isn't that called understitching? Yes, typically understitching is, let me think about that, because understitching, I'm trying to think of it in garment making. But yeah, I guess it kind of would be called understitching. I guess that's what you could call it. I think you're right. Okay, I'm going to make sure this is lined up. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch, again, using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and pull my zipper. Sometimes, you know, if I can't get it, I'll just stop, cut my threads, put it back on, and just stitch over my line a little bit. So do what you need to there. All right, and then again, we're going to open this up and top stitch. Okay, so here's what we have. Easy enough. Looking good. And now what we're going to do is put our linings together, and we're going to put the main part of our bag together. Now, make sure you open up your zipper pull to about halfway. You don't want it in the way of stitching any of the seams. What we're going to do is, and the reason why this works as far as making your pouch ends not poke in, is because we're not going to stitch over this zipper end. We're going to stitch next to it. So by stitching next to it, you can see, I mean, you do see a little bit of the lining peeking out, okay? But it makes for a nice corner here, okay, where it's not folded in. And so that's what enables us to do it, is it takes that piece and it takes the bulk out so we can do it. If you stitch over this piece, it's not going to work. So when we wonder clip this together, we want to, and we go to stitch, we're going to actually use a 1/4 inch seam allowance because I want to make sure that my presser foot clears this area right here. Okay, I don't want to hit this zipper at all. Make sense? Another thing is when you do this, you want to make sure that your zipper, okay, as you fold this, your zipper is going to need to go somewhere. It's going to go towards the lining, okay? And make sure that these two edges, okay, these two ends here, that's the most important part. We want to make sure that matches up. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure those are exactly perfect, and then I'm going to wonder clip that right there in place. And that's where we're going to start stitching. Okay, wonder clip the rest of the side. I'm going to come to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. Of course, this side's a little easier because your zipper end is on the other side. So this is pretty open. I'm going to match these two exactly together. And then go ahead and clip the rest, which is just one clip. So now I'm going to start here, put my needle in, because once my needle goes down into this fabric, these two edges here that I'm trying to match up perfectly won't come apart. That needle is going to hold it in place. So I'm going to start here and come down using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to take it off, flip it over, do the same thing, start up here and come down. Don't worry about the lining yet. We'll do the lining in just a minute. If we start here, up here, and we start stitching, it's going to be real easy for this point right here to get off a little bit. We don't want that to happen, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is nice and even. Stick my needle in. And if you want to use a zipper foot here, you could certainly do that. If you've got a thick presser foot, it may be that, you know, this side of your presser foot is kind of hitting your zipper end a little bit. So feel free to change that out. That will help. Okay, there's one side. Do the other side. And do the same thing. Make sure these two edges are exactly even. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then from there we're just going to stitch this bottom close. Same thing, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now we can go ahead and clip the lining together and we'll stitch that in place. Now we're going to need an opening at the bottom to flip this bag, flip this little pouch. So what I'm going to do is stitch basically where I left off here, come down, same thing here, stitch where I left off, come down. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of stitching on this bottom and keep an opening here. I want to go ahead and box these corners before I turn it. And in order to do that, I've got to stitch a little bit of the bottom seam. Oh, Christine says, by the way, Chris, love your nails. Thank you. I'm so bad. I'm so bad at my nails. Oh Lord, that's one of my things that I'm not great at, getting that done. Okay, I'm going to increase my seam allowance slightly here, and I don't want to do a lot, but I'm maybe up to about a 1/2 inch. And it's just going to help keep the bulkiness out of the lining. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. And then, as I said, we're going to stitch just a little bit at the bottom. The bigger of an opening you leave, the easier it's going to be to turn the bag. All right, so from here, we're going to box the corners. So go ahead and open this up. Stick my hand in here to do that. There we go. So open this up and box. Now, you can do a couple different things here. You can either open up your seam allowances, okay, and stitch, or you can nest your seam allowances. Okay, so this would be an example of opening them up. Or you can nest them. And what that means is that you can put one seam allowance going in one direction, and you can take the other seam allowance and have it go in the other direction. And right where those two come together is called nesting. So I kind of, when it comes to smaller seam allowances like this and smaller bags like this, I like to nest the seams instead of opening them up. Okay, so put a clip there. Now, if you do that, you just need to make sure your bottom seam is going in the same direction on both sides. So I'm going to put it in this direction here. Okay. So see how that bottom seam's going same direction. All right, and we're going to do the same thing on this lining. So open it up, nest the seams, wonder clip. And then when I stitch this, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for the main part of the bag, and I'm going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the lining. So I'm going to start with the lining here, 1/2 inch. And then we'll stitch the main part at a 1/4 inch. And you notice I didn't put any stabilizer on this pouch. You can, certainly if you'd like. If you have a really soft faux or if you're using fabric, you definitely want to. But for smaller pouches like this with faux, you know, average faux, I do not. Oh, didn't hold my thread. All right. Okay, so one thing I always do is cut back my seam allowances here on these pieces. because it will take up some space in the bottom of the bag, which we don't want. Okay, so now we can go ahead and turn. And another thing too is when you have bags this little and you have small spaces to turn, the more stiffener and stabilizer you put in there, the harder it is to turn. Just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so by doing a 1-inch cutout, you end up with about a 2-inch width there. So if you wanted more of a 1-inch width, you would do a 1/2-inch cutout. And when I say cutout, I mean those little boxes at the bottom. Okay, when I go to turn the edge here, okay, where the zipper is, I kind of stick my finger in here and try to open up that seam allowance so it will lay flat as I turn. Okay, so open that up and turn. And then, of course, this is going to be the one spot that's tough, so I'm going to stick my finger in that too and open it up. And these are small seam allowances, so it can be a little tricky trying to get them opened. And then once I get it open, I'll kind of hold it with my finger and put my thumb in the other part there and try to push this out. And then you can always take your turning tool and kind of stick it up underneath the zipper end. Okay, that helps. And then a lot of times I have to take a little bit of the bag and kind of push it back in, kind of where the edges meet. All right, so all we have to do now is close it up. Of course, if you want a bag tag, make sure you put that on. You can close it up by either doing a little slip stitch or you can turn this under. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it under and stitch, and then this one will be done. So if I was giving this as a gift, I'd probably do a little slip stitch here just so that you didn't see this thread, or at least I would probably change to red thread so that you wouldn't see a big black thread at the bottom. But we're going to go with this right now. All right, number 2 is done. So we'll just go ahead and stick this back in, push it down in there real good. Kind of shape the bottom. And there we have number 2. Okay, so here's number 1, here's number 2. So now we have a little set going. So it'd be really cute to even put one of these in there, like put this inside and then this would be the gift. All right, so we're going to move on to the last one, which is going to be this one here. And this is the one with a zipper pocket, okay? So you got basically two zippers here on this one. So let me see, I'm going to move you back over to the cutting table and we're going to see what we can come up with. So I don't think I have enough of this white left because this is all I have, is this. So I think those scraps have about had it. I'm going to switch over to the tan. And so you see the width of my tan, I mean, is already kind of decided for me. I can't go any wider than that. And this is basically 5 and it's almost 6 inches. It's like 5 and 7/8. So you can cut yours 6. And then I think I want this pouch to be a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. So I'm going to use the guides. The good thing about working with plaid is you do have lines. I'm just going to go ahead and cut, even this up right here along this edge. And then I'm going to skip over to this one and I'm going to do the same thing. So let's see how big that ends up being. All right, so that's one cut. I'll do the other one right here. Okay, so the width of this is 8 inches. So basically 6 by 8 is what we're cutting this one. I'm going to even this edge up a little bit, this long edge. All right, so I'm going to cut one more 6 by 8 and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut along the lines, these black lines, because I want the pattern to match as well as possible. I can save this for my zipper tab because we're going to do the zipper in exactly the same way. All right. Make sure these pieces are about the same. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this little bit of black line up here too. And even off this edge. So when you're working with scraps, you know, sometimes you have to kind of improvise. Go ahead and cut this. So again, it ends up being roughly 6 by 8. Slightly less than, but not enough to worry about. So when you're cutting, you cut 6 by 8. If you have the scrap, enough scrap. If not, you know, you can certainly make it whatever size works for you. Okay, then what we're going to do is on one of these pieces, we are going to cut 2 inches off. Nope, we're going to cut 1.5 inches off. I think I did 1.5 inches. So come down 1.5 inches and just cut it off. Okay, so now we have 3 pieces. We have one whole piece that is roughly 6 by 8, and we have 2 pieces that are 8 inches wide, and basically it's the 8 by 6 or 6 by 8, and I'm just cutting off 1.5 inches. Okay. So now let's see, I think I'm going to use brown lining for this. Let's see what I have. So it looks like I've got a couple of pieces that might work for the main part of the bag, main part of the pouch. Look at that. As we say down here in the South, when something works out right, you must be living right. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. And these are 2 full pieces. Don't worry about cutting off the 1.5 inches. Just 2 full pieces. Okay, so now I have 2 full lining pieces, 1 full main piece, and 1 piece that's been cut. So the next thing I need to do is to cut something for my lining, or the lining for my pocket. So for that, we definitely want the width of the bag, so it's going to be 8. So let me see what I have here. That should work. And the width of it is going to be probably about 8 as well. Let me just cut off this little bit of interfacing here, kind of even this up, and let's see what we have and see if this will work. All right, so this ends up being right at just under 8 inches, so I'll be able to cut off my little fuzz here. And I believe it's 8 by 8. No, it's 8 by 7 1/4. Okay, so 8 by 7 1/4 for your lining pocket, or your pocket lining, I guess I should say. All right, so those are all the pieces we're going to need for this, and then we're going to need a little scrap for our zipper end. And then for zipper color, I'm going to stick with the black and gunmetal just to kind of keep the same zipper as the other pouch so that it can be done as a set. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and look at the width, cut the zipper slightly longer. And of course, I'll have my zipper pull as well. Okay. Now this is going to be the pouch that's got the curved edge at the bottom. So I'm not going to worry about cutting the curved edge just yet. We'll deal with that as soon as we kind of put the rest of it, put it together, and then we'll deal with it. All right. So I'm going to move you back over. And let's see how we're going to put this together. A lot of times this is my favorite kind of sewing because you just never know what you're going to come up with. It could be anything. I'm going to switch thread colors to a tan, or more of a brown color. Let's see what I got here. I think that'll be good, a kind of sand color. And then let me find the thread. So one of the things I do a lot of in my sewing room is drop things and lose things. Those are the two main when I'm sewing. I don't know how I can lose things that are right in front of my face, but I do. Today was a great day because I found something I thought I had lost for about 2 weeks. I've been looking for it. And I looked everywhere in the warehouse. I looked everywhere in my office. I looked everywhere at my shop, like my sewing studio and filming studio here at the house. I looked everywhere for this. We all looked. We could not find it. And I knew it existed and somebody else saw it. So it wasn't like I dreamed it. It was real. I could not find it. And thank God somebody else saw it besides me, because otherwise I probably would have doubted myself that it even existed. Anyway, long story short, I have somebody help me bag some hardware, and they brought the hardware back today and they had it with them. So somehow it got slipped into the bag that they had, and I didn't know that. And yeah, I was very happy to see it. Very happy to see it. Okay. So we're going to go with tan. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I need 2 zippers, not just one. Let's see if this will fit. Okay, so I'm going to take some double-sided tape and put it, like I just lost my double-sided tape. I know it's here somewhere. I've been using it. All right, don't know. Take another roll. All right, so I'm going to take some double-sided tape and put it on the right side, and just to kind of stay consistent, I want to make sure that I'm putting it on the right place. Okay, so on the smaller, or excuse me, on the larger bottom piece of your front, go ahead and put it on the top edge. And then on the smaller piece at the top, so basically your top piece, you're going to put it along the bottom edge. Okay, go ahead and peel the backing off the tape. And put the zipper, you don't have to worry about your zipper pull yet. Go ahead and put your zipper face down. And so basically your right side's together, and I have a little bit of the zipper tape off the sides. Now I'm going to take my zipper lining piece, my pocket lining piece, and I'm going to put double-sided tape on the edge that is the same width as the pouch, okay? So Christine says she thinks she spends more time looking for things than sewing. I think that's probably right. Thanks for this fun live show. Thanks for showing us how to use all your small pieces. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so this is what we have. We have a larger pocket than we do main part of our bag, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and stitch, and then we'll top stitch. Okay, so when I top stitch, I'm actually going this time to fold the lining to the back and top stitch all of this together. Okay, so the lining is down in the back. Okay, boy, that thread color matches good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this so it's wrong side up or lining side up and put some double-sided tape on the other side of the pocket. So the other short side. I'm going to peel the backing off that tape. And I'm going to fold this up so it's even with the other edge of the zipper tape. So with the top edge of the zipper tape. Okay, so from the front, you can see basically this zipper tape, that top edge is where this pocket's going to. And then I'm going to peel the backing off this piece, and we're going to put it right side down on the zipper. Okay. So right side down. And I'm just going to make sure that the edge of this piece matches the edge of this piece. Okay, and then we're going to stitch. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece and we're going to flip it up. And we want to make sure we keep the seam allowance going up. Okay, so the zipper tape is laying flat. And we're going to top stitch. Okay, so now this is what we have. So go ahead and trim the zipper even with the bag. And put your zipper pull on. Now, of course, depending on how you want your zipper pull, you will put it on the corresponding side. So I'm going to put it here so that when it closes, it goes in towards the left. So you're just going to have to kind of open up this pocket to do that. Okay, so just kind of move it and then get this on. So now go ahead and baste the pocket edges. So I'm just going to, when I say baste, I don't change my stitch length. All I'm doing is stitching a very thin, very scant 1/8 of an inch down, not back stitching, just to kind of hold this pocket down so it doesn't get in my way. And when you do that stitch, you actually can stitch over your zipper teeth so that your pull doesn't come off too. Okay, you kind of do two birds with one stone. So Lisa says, hope this live sewing along will be available for viewing later. Yes, you can view it on YouTube at any time. You'll just go to the live stream section. So when you go onto my channel, usually there's like, I think a menu at the top. You have videos, live streams, and so you'll have to click on the live stream and then you should be able to get to it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and complete our other zipper. We're going to put the zipper pull on and then we'll put our end on just like we did before with the other bag. So I'm just going to even this up, burn that edge, and put the zipper pull on. Oops, again, dropping things. Oh my gosh. Okay, it looks like that's off one tooth. So let me, and I do have a zipper jig that actually makes this a lot easier. The key is always to come in at a 45-degree angle when you do the zippers. There you go. Oops, see? Golly. Okay. So now that it's on, I'm going to take my little scrap piece, I'm going to put it right sides together with the zipper. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't switch you over. We're going to go ahead and stitch. Lisa says, I'm using my new cylinder arm to sew along and I'm a little behind. Okay, so now what you're going to do is make sure your seam allowance is going toward the actual zipper piece. The key with this, whenever you do zippers, is you always want to make sure that your zipper pull, like your zipper tape, is laying flat. So whether you're doing a zipper pocket for the inside of a bag or you're doing a, something like this, the zipper is always flat. I can't think of one instance where it's not. There might be one, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. So I'm just going to fold that around and then we'll go ahead and stitch. And I actually like having it longer like this because I can hold this piece down without having to put a wonder clip, because this is a really small area and I can just avoid having the wonder clip in at all, stitch and then just cut it off. So if you are sewing along or if you are going to sew afterwards, make sure you post your collection on our Facebook group because I would really love to see what you come up with, because I know that you come up with some really cool things that I don't even think about. And I mean, this is just the basics. This is just to kind of get you going. I know that you all have great ideas. Okay, so now we know that our bag, our pouch here is 8 inches, so we want our zipper to be exactly 7. So I'm going to make a mark at the 7-inch, ooh, and I'm close. I'm really close. I'm not going to have to cut anything off. I'm going to barely make it. And I don't even have to put a line. I'm just going to make sure now that the edge is lined up with itself. That's how close I am. So I'm not going to have any arms left over here. And if you do want to try to burn this to keep it down, what I usually do is just kind of burn these edges and then try to you got to be quick about it. And see, it doesn't, very rarely does it stay for me, and it barely stays. I'm just not good at that. If you guys have a trick that you can share, that would be great, because I don't know. I just have to use pins. It's about the only time I use pins anymore is when I'm doing these zippers. So Lisa says, oh no, Christine says, I watched the zipper get stapled. Oh, that's a good idea. So Grammy Jan says, finish my Madison. I missed how to do the card stock adhesive lining, but it's fine with raw since the edge is stitched. I edge coated, not good at that, but that's okay. Edge painting is such a art in itself. It takes a lot of practice, and I'm really not that great at it either, but you know, I do try to do it sometimes. The main thing that I find is it takes a lot of patience. And if you can be patient with it and put a little bit of paint on at a time, it usually comes out, at least for me, it comes out good. But if I try to rush it or try to maybe get on or go to the next step before it dries, that's when everything kind of goes crazy and does not work. This is so tight. I'm going to use my awl right here. Well, make sure you post your Madison wallet, Jan, because I really want to see it. Or the whole collection. Go ahead and do your whole collection first. So Jan, when we had the trunk show up at Pins and Needles, I guess you saw that, right? Because you were probably, since you're up there, that's where you live. It sounds like they really liked the trunk show at Pins and Needles, that it all went really well. We got to see a little bit of it on a video, but not much. Okay, yikes, that's close. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark my centers. And then mark the center of my bag here, which I centered this pretty well, which is gonna be that center mark right there, that center line. Yep, right on it. Same thing here. All right, let's put this together. Now, if you want this to be a box bottom, you know how to do that. You can certainly do that. That's what we did with the other one. I'm going to show you on how to do a curved bottom on this. And you can use a curve ruler for it. I'm just going to use, I'm going to find either a piece of, or some, something round, like maybe my double-sided tape, and actually curve it based on that. It really does not have to be anything super specific, but just, you know, something curvy. Okay, let's see. I'm having to log back in to see your comments, so give me just a second. Okay. Let's see. If you asked a question that I missed, don't hesitate to ask again. I am not great at doing this. I usually have somebody reading me questions here. Okay. I do see that Dale asked, you never tried the understitching, but could you use invisible thread or translucent thread on the plaid? It looks great with the black thread, just curious. Yes, you definitely could. You could use, there is something called invisible thread, and a lot of times we used to use it in, I used to use it in draperies. When you stitch the, this might be more information than what you guys are looking for, but when you stitch the side seam of the drapery, okay, so you make this big long drape and then you fold the edges over, you're usually doing 1.5 inches twice. So basically you have 3 inches of fabric, you're folding once, you're folding again. And then when you go to do that stitch there on a blind hemmer, a lot of times we would use the invisible thread. And that way you didn't have to change your thread. You could use the same thread for every single set of drapes you did. And it made it really quick and it made it really easy, and that stuff's strong. It's almost like, I don't want to say fishing line, but it kind of sort of is. It's kind of a, that's what it reminds me of. It's not as thick as fishing line maybe, but it's kind of like a fishing line type of thread. Comes in a great big old spool and you cannot see it. I mean, it is really kind of cool. So that would be neat to use in bag making, and that way you don't see it. You know, I've never tried it. I have a big old spool of it. I need to do that to see how it works and how it looks. I would think it would be, it's not a cotton, obviously. It's like a filament maybe thread, so I'm assuming it would hold really well in the bags, but that's a really good point and a good question. Let's see if anybody else has anything that I missed. Christine asked, Chris, are you driving to Pins and Needles? No, I'm gonna fly up there, because from Georgia I think it's going to be about, I think it's going to be a good 12 to 13 hour drive. So I'm going to, I'm just going to fly. So Jan said, yes, the trunk show was great. She gets at least 30 to 40 people each day for this. I'm not sure what you mean by that. She gets at least 30 to 40 people each day for this. Do you mean 30 to 40 people each day asking for Simply Classic? I'm not sure. Hey, Jess. So Jess was in our Sacramento class. And so she had a nice Sailrite. She had a portable Sailrite she brought that was really cool. Man, her bags came out great. She had this really cool machine. Everybody was loving it. So Jan said the airport is close to Pins. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Yeah, I think it'll be good. I'll probably just Uber over, and I'm excited about it. To be honest with you, I've never been to Ohio, so there you go. That's going to be a first for me. So we're going to do this zipper the same way we did the other. We're going to go ahead and center. This is cute. I think out of all of our new faux, we're calling this vintage tartan plaid. I think this one's the best seller so far. And we only ordered 1 bolt of each, so we can get more, but it probably won't be for a while. So if you want it, it might be a good idea to get it, because it takes a good, let's just say it takes a good long while for us to get product in. some days are better than others. Some months are better than others. It depends what's happening with the government and everything else. So. Oh, so Jan said she offers 2 to 3 days to choose from where you come in to see the trunk show. Oh, wow. Yeah, I would tell you, what we saw online of it, it looked like it was a huge event. I mean, not just the Simply Classic Trunk Show, but they also had the event before. And I was shocked as to the amount of people that were there. I thought, oh my God, I mean, that's a big store. We were really excited about going up. I say we, I am. I'm coming up by myself. Okay, so we're gonna stitch. Enough talking, let's get to stitching. And then for those of you who are in the South, we're going to be in Louisiana in July. We know for sure. We've already got that scheduled. It's going to be in Broussard, Louisiana. And she has a retreat house. And I don't think we're going to be, like, I don't think I'll be teaching in the retreat house. But from what I understand, anybody who flies in, she's going to offer for them to stay in the retreat house for a very low, I mean, very, very low fee. I think she was talking like $50 or something a night, really, really a good price. So if you're interested in flying in for that, that would be a great one too. But understand, if you're not from the South, it's going to be hot in July. Which is okay, we'll be inside, but it's gonna be hot. And then I'll tell you another one we're in the process of scheduling. And it's kind of at this point penciled in. Nothing's been officially finalized yet, but we are looking at going to Colorado. Probably at the end of July. End of July, beginning of August. So hopefully that works out too. And then of course we'll be in Sacramento again this year. So for those of you who are watching from California, we had a great show last year at the Sacramento Sack Bag and Sew. And we're going to, I don't know if you saw, but there's going to be some different kinds of classes there this year. We're going to do some all-day classes. So, you know, I know a lot of the students that I had said, hey, we would really like to have a couple of 8-hour classes. So we're going to do an 8-hour class, probably one day. And then we're also going to do, I'm going to probably do a couple of like lectures, okay? So it'll be in a classroom, but we'll talk about a specific topic and just be like an hour-long quick class for you to sit and you know, kind of learn some things. And then I think in addition, she's going to have 4-hour classes. So there's going to be a little bit of variety. And I'm going to try to get in on teaching at least one of each. One long one 4-hour one, and then maybe 1 or 2 of the lectures. So trying to develop that agenda right now. So if there's anything, if you're, you know, again, I know I've got some California people watching. If there's anything specific that you want to know about, send me an email or leave a comment and let me know, because it does help me know what you're interested in learning about. Obviously, we want to bring you good content. And so, oh, sorry, that whole time I didn't have you switched over. Gosh, sorry about that. Jess says, looking forward to longer classes in Sack Bag and Sew. Yeah, and I think, and shorter and lecture ones too, I think it's going to be good because, you know, the long ones, the 8-hour ones can be long, And that's okay. It's good for a day, but I don't know if you're going to want to be in an 8-hour class 3 days in a row. That's going to be a lot. But, you know, maybe so. So it'd be nice to break it up. And then where else? Okay, so another thing we're doing this year is H&H, which you guys probably have heard of H&H. It's always been a wholesale show, so just for shops, but now they have a consumer show. So it's going to be in Chicago in May, and we are going to be there for both the consumer and the wholesale show. It's the first year of the consumer show, so I'm kind of anxious to see how that goes. They have a really great event. I really, really enjoyed doing those wholesale shows because, and going to those wholesale shows because they're fun. The event planners do a really great job in planning the event. A lot of times, like I remember one year I went, and at 4 o'clock each day, or I don't know if it was each day, at least the day I was there, they had like open bar where you could get like beer and wine or drinks of some kind. Another day, when you walked in, they had like this huge cake. I mean, the cake was like the biggest cake I've ever seen. It was like the size of a table, and they were cutting, giving everybody a piece of cake. And I mean, they just have some really neat things. So if you are interested in a consumer show, of course, Houston is always good. Houston, it was the weekend before Christmas or before Thanksgiving, and they just switched it to 2 weekends before Thanksgiving. So, you know, it's a little early in November, so that's good. I think if they had had it the weekend before Thanksgiving, it would have been tough. I don't know how many people would have gone. So we're considering that again. Houston's always been a good show for us, but so close to the holiday might be a little tough. So we'll see. And then what else are we doing? I'm trying to think if there's something else. I'll tell you, the calendar's filling up quick, which is great. Okay, so here we are. This is where we basically were at with our other pouch, right? And then at this point we had our little squares cut out and we boxed our corners. We sewed our sides and we boxed our corners. So what we're going to do this time is to do curved corners. So I'm going to put my main pieces together, my lining pieces together. Go ahead and make sure these edges match just like normal. Or these corners here, we want to make sure everything matches up perfectly. And I can see that probably when I took one of my seam allowances, I might have taken it a little bit bigger. You can see I've got a tiny little bit here at the bottom, extra on one piece. No problem, I'm not gonna worry about it. So we want this to be a nice curved edge. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just even this up at the bottom. Okay, we're talking like that's 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so you see, I mean, that's all I cut off, just a little bit. So that's going in the trash. So now, let's create our curved edge. So let me see what I have around here that I could use. Okay, one thing is if you use an edge like this, you see that's a curved edge, but look at how severe that is. You go to try to stitch that, you can certainly do it, but it's going to be a little bit, when you turn it, it's going to look more like a square edge than a curved edge because it is so severe. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Okay, I could use coaster. Of course, I have a curved edge ruler, but I'm trying to show you some things that you can use that, you know, you don't have to buy special tools. That's kind of what this is about. you know, not having to buy anything extra. We have leftover zipper, we have leftover fabric, we have leftover faux, we have all this stuff. You can make a really nice, upscale, high gift without having to spend a lot of money. And isn't that what Christmas is about? I think it is. I think it's about the thought and the effort and, you know, all of that more than anything else. Okay, so I could use that, or I could use my double-sided tape, which, look at that, that's the exact, dang, look at that, that is the exact same size. Huh. It just so happens I used enough double-sided tape that it was the same. Anyway, let's see what else I got. I've got my Wonder Clip thing I could use. Let's see how that compares. That's pretty close to that. I think everything's kind of pretty close to this coaster. So I'm going to use the coaster. So what I'm going to do is lay the coaster down. I'm going to make sure that this side of the coaster is on the edge and this side over here is on the edge. Okay. And then I'm just going to draw a line. I'm just going to use a pen and draw that kind of half. Okay, so you can see what that looks like. Now, this is going to be essentially as if, I'm not going to cut it until after I sew it. You certainly could. But essentially that would be like the raw edge of the fabric. So we have our raw edge and it would be like this is still the raw edge. So when I stitch, I want to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to keep my presser foot on the side of it on this so that I'm stitching 1/4 inch all the way around. So I'm going to do the same thing on the lining. And then of course on the lining we need to make sure that we have an opening so that we can turn it. All right. Easy enough. Small spool of thread works great. That's a great idea, Lisa. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, you guys are talking about goat tote, yes. So for those of you who don't know, goat tote guy Mike is a good friend of ours. He makes travel bags for sewing machines. And actually, if you were, we've had some of his coupons and some of his literature before that we've included in something. I can't remember if it was a subscription box or I can't remember where we included it. But anyway, you probably have heard of goat tote because we have kind of tried to make more people aware of his products because they are so good. And if you have a Burnett, the Burnett fits perfectly in one of his bags. So, okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start at the point that I want to match exactly, and I'm going to come down. Now, because I have a curve here and I don't have a straight line where I'm stopping, what I'm going to do is come down and I'm going to stop right about here in the middle. And then I'm going to pick up from this other end. I'm going to start stitching and come down and stop here. I don't want to start here, go all the way around, because chances are by the time I get over here, it's going to be off a little bit. Okay? And there's nothing that says you have to start in a certain place. You don't have to start here to go all the way around to stop here. You can start and stop as many times as you want. Fair enough? I'm going to put a couple of Wonder Clips here. All right, and let's stitch. Oh, look at that, I forgot to stop. That's okay. I'm going to come to right about here, do a little back stitch. I'm going to turn this around and then I'm going to start here. This is the one with the hump, so it's the one that's going to apt to be more off. Okay. All right. And now we will go ahead and stitch the lining. Got all my threads, cut them off. So I'm going to start where I left off here, and I am going to do a slightly larger seam allowance, of course, for my lining. I'm going to stop so I can turn it. Oh, and now that I turned it, I lost my my line for my curve. So let me go ahead and draw that back in. You want to go just beyond your curve and then stop. All right, cut all these threads. Now, you can cut, if you've got a good pair of pinking shears, which I have yet to find. I have a pair here, I'm going to see how they work. You can cut the curves in these. I've never had a lot of luck, but let's see. Yeah, see, that's not working very well. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this and then make some snips in the corners. If you have a brand of pinking shears that you like, I would love to know what that is, because I cannot find any. All right, we're just about done. We'll have a nice 3 pouch set, pouch/wallet. All right, so go ahead and turn. Oh, you know what, let me make a couple snips in this. So this will help your corners behave a little better. Don't obviously clip your stitches. If you do, just go back and stitch over it again. It's not the end of the world, but just try to make sure you don't, if you can help it. All right, and we are about ready to wrap it up. So Kathy says, or no, Craft Bags 33 says, love making your bags, just finished the Prada-inspired. Yeah. I think I'm getting ready to do another dupe. It is going to be a Dior dupe. We're gonna actually use the Bircham pattern for that. So if you don't have the Bircham pattern, actually we're gonna use a combination. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Between the Bircham and the Simply Classic Clutch. So if you don't have either one of those, or if you're missing one, might wanna get them. Whew, okay. So let me go ahead and get these curves out first. And then let me turn this corner. So I'm going to try to kind of open this up. All right, and then we're going to close up the lining and we are done. So the Crafty Bag also says made the Louis dupe and the Monster Marc Jacobs. It is amazing how many of those designer bags, I mean, some of them are small, but there's so many of them that are big. They're big and they're pretty basic. A lot of times those designs are simple ones. You know, the designer bags, they try to make things easy on themselves too for production. So too many pockets, too many seams just adds to the cost. So a lot of times they're just really simple. Alrighty. Let's stick this back in. Look at how cute that is. I like this one. And of course you can kind of roll these seams out. Okay, so let's look at all of the bags. Let me grab these other two. And there we go. So not bad for an afternoon. We've got a cool set of Burberry-inspired pouches and wallets, and I think it would make an amazing gift. So create your set, post it on the Facebook group, and I would love to see them. So Lisa said this would make a great wristlet. This one here would, yes, really would. It'd be amazing. It'd be easy to do. I would probably add the connector maybe somewhere in the, like in this area. Don't put it like where your zipper is. I'd probably put it in between. And something like this would just need a little half-inch. Or another thing you could do is you could get a zipper pull that has like a round Ours really would be hard to do, where you could put the wristlet strap actually in the zipper pull itself, so you would actually have it to open and close. These would be really cute too. I think especially this one, because this one's kind of plain, to have a zipper pull with a tassel, and you could have just a little tassel hanging down. That would be a neat little thing. So will this be replay that, oh yes, you love this tiny credit card holder. Yes, that's called the Madison. This is a free pattern on our website. So go to our website and download the pieces for this. Of course, the measurements for these two I gave you here, and it was just literally winging it, just based on what scraps I have. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to just see what you have and make it work. I mean, that's kind of part of all of it, and they're all going to be different sizes and shapes, and that's okay. But yes, you can watch the replay. It will be on YouTube. Instead of going to videos, you're probably going to have to go to live streams, and then you'll see it there, and you can rewatch and you can sew along. And yes, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed it. I always love sewing and love interacting with you. And I think we're probably going to schedule maybe in January, another sew along on Zoom, so we can all be on the camera and sewing together. We'll pick a bag and we'll do that. So, do you sell the fabric on your website? Yes. So this is called the large tartan plaid in vintage and the large tartan plaid in cream. And then this black I used is actually our faux suede in black. I'm kind of hooked on that right now. But you can use any black you have, obviously, or red. Yeah, any of those colors would be good on that. I do like the wallet with a contrast. I think that's kind of cool. And I also think that we could have used a contrast for this right here to have that be the same color as this suede. I think that would have been cool. So that's another idea. So, okay, so thanks. Looking forward to the replay. We'd love to make one of your in-person classes in 2026. Yes, I would love to see everybody. I'm really trying to get to different areas of the country so that I can, you know, I know it's hard sometimes for people to get different places, or maybe the timing isn't right. So I'm trying to be in, you know, Ohio, Colorado, Florida, California, all these different places, Texas, so that we can hopefully connect. Because that's my goal. So thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me. I see Lisa says thank you for spending your afternoon with her. We really appreciate everything. We appreciate your support this year. It has been a really great year, and I hope that 2026 proves to be just as good or even better. So happy sewing, everybody, and we will see you back soon.